Actually, that's the salsa. Oh. Everyone's like, Jade did a live the other day. What's Jade doing another live for today? Are you joining from Garden State Hemp or Green Passions? Green Passions? Okay. Green Passions. Just sit there for a minute, Carl. We're gonna start. Is the music too loud? Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Just enjoying my legal cannabis. Let me turn this down a bit. Creating a groovy
Never done one of these before, so you're like, I have no idea how I look or anything, but the setup is good.
It was Carl's birthday, everybody.
Thank you.
Yesterday. He's a little hungover, so I think it's very professional. But see, if cannabis was legal, we wouldn't have to worry about that. That's not true. You still would have celebrated your birthday.
Yeah, I would have.
All right. Oh, see, we got a happy birthday from Megan over there.
Thank you, Megan.
So, legalization update. I just want to have a quick debriefing with everyone because I got a lot of messages. As soon as it happened, I got a lot of messages yesterday, and then worried patients just kind of being like, oh, well, what the hell does that mean for us? And so I thought that, of course I reached out to you and I tried to look it up myself, but if you want to, I guess let's let everybody know what the new law actually means. Like, you can't just, you're not legally going out and smoking cannabis right now.
Right. Bear with me for a second because there was a little lag when you were speaking before, so I didn't get every part that you said. But I'm assuming you just want to jump kind of into it. Well, on the 22nd, Governor Murphy signed 3 bills into law. One that actually creates and legalizes the marketplace or the industry, the cannabis industry here in New Jersey. It'll establish licenses, and it establishes the CRC, which is the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. And that bill is going to oversee, and the CRC will oversee the legal industry now. Another bill that was signed was the Decriminalization Bill, which now no longer, these type of activities no longer state law. So you can have simple possession of up to 6 ounces of marijuana flower. You can have simple possession of 17 grams or less of hashish. You can, it's no longer against state law to be under the influence of marijuana or hashish. It's no longer against the law to possess paraphernalia for marijuana or hashish. And it's no longer a violation of state law to possess marijuana or hashish as a motor vehicle operator. Yet you could have it, but you cannot consume it while driving, and you cannot be under the influence of cannabis while driving. So you do want to make sure that you have at least like a 3 to 5 hour, window since your last consumption before you, operate a motor vehicle. But if you happen to have cannabis in the vehicle with you, that's no longer against state law. So if a cop comes to your window and says, it might smell because you have something that, strong odor, and you might not be having it properly, in a smell-proof case or something like that. But if it does smell of marijuana, you can tell the officer, yes, I have some marijuana in a container in the trunk or something like that. And that's perfectly fine. Another bill that he did sign into law, which was that controversial cleanup bill, which was what was hanging up getting the Decriminalization Bill and the Legalization Bill signed, kind of creates some more guidelines for law enforcement when they do come across a minor who's, I think the ages of 16 or 17 to 20 years old, who might be, in the possession or using cannabis. Those laws are, it's mostly the first offense, it's a warning for the individual. The second offense, it's an additional warning, and the parents are notified. And after the third warning, the child has to, start looking at possible treatment facilities or things like that to address, the use of cannabis. But it's kind of interesting to kind of those laws are a little bit more of a nuance. It's more of like a political move to get that bill signed, but most importantly, the bill that establishes the legalization of the industry and the decriminalization, which is going to end a lot of people and disconnected or disenfranchised communities from getting arrested or having to have these issues with law enforcement. That's really important, and it's really important for for a lot of people to be able to get their records not tainted by cannabis.
Yeah, and it's so funny you use the word disenfranchised because I know you hate that word.
Yeah, I do. But what I will say though that's very important. Also regarding even with the decriminalization bill, it is still not permitted to just consume cannabis while you're like walking around in like a neighborhood or anything like that. There are protections for medical marijuana patients to consume where smoking is permitted if they're in an area where they can go to like a smoker section of like an outdoor facility or something like that to consume their medicine. That's okay, but actually adult use cannabis is not permitted to be consumed while you're just out and about.
Right. So that's okay. I want to stop you right there. So that's where I want to get for people right now. It's like I think that's also what a lot of what happened back when people were just like January hit. Everybody was like, we could just go smoke. And even if you're in like Colorado, you're still like, yeah, okay, you may see people walking around and smoking, but it's also similar to what is it, like public consumption? What is that?
Out like the open container in public.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same concept as that. And I think also what is also misleading to people is as patients, and this is just under the patients, that we get this set of guidelines that we get this piece of paper and it says it's strongly suggested that you only medicate at home. Strongly suggested does not mean you have to. It means that we would recommend it, but if you need to medicate elsewhere, you can. So that's important to know that when you're smelling cannabis and you're out, most likely, technically, it should be a legal patient and they're doing it in a legal fashion. But if you are going to be a recreational adult user, I know this is the adult use thing and people are against the term recreational, but you're trying to have fun. You're trying to get lit. You can't be out there smoking.
It's legal, I can say that.
But like that's why I think they were, consumption lounges were going to be a thing.
Yep. So the part of S21A21, which is the bill that creates the legalized marketplace, there are opportunities for dispensaries and any companies or small businesses that are awarded a dispensary or retail class 4 retail license or class 5 retail license. They will be able to lobby their local municipality or their host community that they're located in and get their endorsement to operate a consumption lounge that would be an attachment to their dispensary, either a separate building on the same premise or a separated area in the same building by a wall or adjournment with separate entrances so that people could consume. But they would have to get the local municipalities okay and then go to the state and get the state's okay. So there could possibly be a rollout of consumption lounges once we start seeing some adult use or dispensaries start popping up and some more retail locations popping up. But I think it's going to be something that's probably going to take a couple of years. I think most of those companies are going to be more so concentrated on getting the licenses and proving to the host communities that, you know, it's good business and they're good neighbors. And I think I think some host communities might be, you know, a little worried about, you know, just allowing consumption lounge first year. So it, like you were saying, it is strongly suggested that you use it, you know, at home, or in private places or anything like that. But it's very, you know, it's going to be really awesome once we do get consumption lounges here in Jersey. But it is a part of the bill for dispensaries to get endorsements for. So we'll see if they actually pop up.
I'm curious because I know, and I don't know if this is me speaking out of line, but I know that Montclair, because now they've become Ascend. There was an adjoining cafe that was supposed to be in hopes during legalization to turn into their consumption lounge. So I'm just going to say it here that it might be sooner than you think, but
Yeah.
also in that sense, I don't want to worry patients. This is not happening tomorrow. This is not happening
No,
this
but
year.
actually, what's if you look at the way that the bill S21/821 creates the CRC, or the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Now that the bill has been signed, they kind of have a time frame of when they need to have the regulations written and produced to the public. And that is 180 days from the day that Murphy signed the bill, which was the 22nd. That unless they seat all 5 or 6 committee members, then they would have 45 days. So it's very interesting because they haven't sat all of the or appointed all the seats yet for the CRC. I think there is one seat that's still open that somebody needs to be appointed for. So there is that time frame. So there has to be there's at least 180 days currently that we would be waiting before the CRC has to put out the regulatory framework for the industry. So, and even in between that time frame, they also have to hold kind of public town halls for public comment for the regulatory commission. So it's really important that the people that were really, you know, pushing for the bills to get signed and the legislature to write the bills, we now have to kind of shift gears and make sure we are also, you know, watching what the CRC does, because that could affect the consumption lounges and things like that, because the CRC could write in the regulatory framework that consumption lounges can't open up for the first 6 months of the industry opening up from day one. So though the bill is written and everything, CRC, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, really has the majority of the oversight in how the industry is going to look and operate. So these are important things for all of the patients and you know, adult use advocates to continue to push for, because regulatory language and wording is going to be just as important as the bill was. And there was definitely something you mentioned before in terms of consumption for adult use and like medical patients. One thing to also keep in mind is, for the way that the decrim and legalization bills are written, you know, there are workplace protections for medical patients. If you are a medical patient and there's, you know, a job-related injury and a drug test that you have to take or something like that, there's those protections for medical patients in terms of your employment, but there aren't those necessary protections for adult use users. So it's very important for people to know, you know who your employer is, know what, you know, what their rules and where their stance is on cannabis use, because God forbid, you know, I know there's some jobs where if you're hurt on the job and you have to go, you know, to the hospital for something, you have to get a drug test, and you know, you don't want to get, you know, in a sticky situation with your employer because of the adult, you know, because you use cannabis. It's legal here in New Jersey now, but there's still some, you know, real kind of nuanced issues that the bill really didn't address all the way. And that was one of the things a lot of the lawmakers said, that the bill's not perfect now, but, you know, we can always revisit it later. So these are things that can still get people, you know, in some sticky situations. It's the same thing with, as you were saying before, you might go to Colorado or California and see people smoking while they walk around in public and things like that. You know, that type of thing here in New Jersey can still, you know, you might not get arrested for it, but you can still get a ticket for it. You know, it's a disorderly person. So you just because you're not getting arrested for it, you know, a lot of issues when you get 10, 15 different tickets for $50, $60, and they start to add up, and then the next thing you know, you owe the state $1,000 in tickets for open consumption.
And you
So
could have pound with that. You could have pound with that.
mm.
But this is gonna be it's gonna be like really interesting. I really don't think that people have much to worry about. Like if you are the adult use user, is really just gonna be like listening for, okay, when is the first one ready to go? I kind of have this feeling that there are going to be people, because this already happened, like when I worked at Breakwater, that people would call and they'd be from out of state or whatever, and they'd be like, yeah, we got medical marijuana. So does that mean I could come in and just get it? And like, I have a feeling that there's going to be that confusion where we're going to have people coming to the medical dispensaries and trying to get cannabis
I mean,
before.
they've come to our CBD store in Milburn and already asked like, oh, you guys can sell weed now, right? So like, where's your THC flower? Which we can't. But the way that the bill was written, it will allow medical dispensaries in the interim of the RFA, or request for licensing for adult use dispensaries and cultivators, for until those that industry gets kind of built up and worked. The state is going to allow the already existing alternative treatment centers to open up satellite locations so that they can also sell cannabis to adult use users and people over the age of 21. But they first have to be able to certify to the state, each dispensary individually, that they have enough inventory to take care of their patient base first. So that could, and anybody that's kind of been watched their eye on the industry at all kind of knows every state has supply issues, especially in New Jersey. Our medical marijuana program was not that robust for the first 10 years of its life. And even right now, I would say it's mildly getting built up a little bit, but there are currently only 13 dispensaries open. The litigation that was holding up the request for applications from 2019 just finally got released, so there potentially be an additional 24 licenses coming coming due in hopefully in a couple months. Hopefully the Department of Health doesn't have to take too long. But there can now start to be some advancements in where people can get it, but it'll probably be a few months, I think, before the ATCs can start to certify that they have enough inventory for patients. Because I know patients right now complain that they don't have.
Than that. They're going to be longer than that, because they would have had to, unless, and I have to say, and this can be my complete just ignorance from the matter, because I haven't been in an actual facility in some time. But like, unless they had been working on this and holding back things as they were now, like so that they had enough for the patients or for that to be converted over to the adult use side, there is no way that they have, because they have to have the space. They would have had to build, and I think Garden State, if I remember correctly, because I do know some of the architects around these parts, they built out and they actually have like the levels now. So
Well,
that,
yeah, and I think just from again, I don't know for just to be fair, I don't know the inner operations of all the or any of the ATCs that are operating in terms of what their operations look like and what they can build up. From articles that I have read from some of the companies that have completed some transactions with publicly traded companies, so some of the information is public. I do remember reading the article where Garden State Dispensary right now has like 30,000 square feet of cultivation that's already producing, but they had an additional like 75,000 under construction. So I know that they have a pretty big footprint that they, again, could probably get up and running. I don't know where that construction is on that side. Again, I don't know like their inner workings or operations or any of their business that's going on behind their closed doors, but if you have about 75,000 square feet under construction, depending on where you're at in the stages of that construction, hopefully you could have it, operational within by summertime, so that by the end of the year, maybe you can have, granted you got to pass all, testing and stuff like that. Maybe you could start to supply adult use by around Christmas time. I honestly think that that's when you'll start to see some of the ATCs have satellite locations popped up. I think probably around. I know we all want it to be summertime or springtime. I want to walk. I want to go down the street right now and be able to buy something. When the weather gets nice, it's getting sunny out. I don't know what happened, but I think probably sometime by fall, because I know fall is usually a good time for harvest season. We do a lot of indoor grow here, though. But I think right around Christmas, the winter season, I think some of the ATCs will be able to start supplying. I know you're less. Yeah, I from some of the articles that I read, I just think I think they've had some space that has been under construction that just because perhaps no, they've had the opportunity. There's plenty of patients that they could have supplied a lot of cannabis to. So I think a bunch of the dispensaries might be able to get products to consumers by the end of the year. I think that's.
I know. Like and my thing is that it's not gonna be quality. Like it's gonna be this.
Well, yeah, I never said it was gonna be. I said they were gonna get product to the consumers. I never said it was gonna be what we wanted. I never said it was gonna be what the consumers wanted. I just said they were gonna get product to the consumers by the end. And again, it might be. Anyone that deals with the medical marijuana industry marketplace here in New Jersey knows it might be product, but it might be concentrates. It might be stuff like that they can certify they have enough inventory for. It might not be flour. I don't think they put the bill, the way the bill's written, they didn't really get that stingent on like, oh, you have to be able to certify that you have enough flour inventory before you can sell, or inventory of everything. It's just worded that they have to certify they have enough inventory to meet the demand of their medical patients. So we might be able to walk in and get carts, a whole bunch of carts, or cartridges and concentrate.
You froze for me, Carl. That's okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm still going. But that's actually something that we had been discussing. Well, the group that I discussed this with outside of here is that manufacturing facilities are probably going to be, we literally just talked about this, like that's probably going to be the second wave, because the problem that a lot of states had was that flour was actually the highest in demand. Now, if you're manufacturing anything, concentrates and such, and those things, you are using a lot of flour because, like I just said, it's concentrates. It's a concentrate of these cannabinoids. So they will probably be second in line. You're going to probably see flour roll out. I have a feeling that adult use is going to really be flour, pre-rolls. I'm not sure about edibles. I don't know about that. But I don't see this being what people expect it to be until later on next year. I think, Carl, like he wrote down here that he's had technical difficulties, got kicked out. That's fine. But I think that the flour is going to be okay. Yeah, if you guys get the flour in wintertime, like I feel like we should put a bet on it. I feel like we should put a bet. We should put some money down. I shouldn't talk about that live. Anyway. But like the flour, I don't know. Is it going to be quality product if you're getting it this year? If they can't supply these patients during this pandemic, if there wasn't a pandemic, perhaps. But there's so much regulation in place that is like limiting the amount of people that can safely harvest and do all of these things, that how can we get to the numbers that we need to? Because you can't even estimate what the adult use program is going to be. That's the thing. Because I can still be a medical patient and purchase adult use. Why would I? But that's neither here nor there. But that I don't think that that's things that people are thinking about. That I am now, I have a dual purpose. I'm a dual user. What if my prescription runs out and I'm in between seeing the doctor and now I'm going and getting the medical, the adult use stuff? How are you now telling me that you have the supply for all of these people? Like, this is the stuff that I truly want to know. I know what people that I have worked with can do. I know what they're capable of, but that doesn't mean everybody's capable of that. So it would just seem as though, and just the what would I say? Just the bureaucracy of cannabis and the corporate mindset of cannabis and the competition. Would this be something beneficial if only one dispensary can offer this? Are we going to be allowing this to be one dispensary? Because if it's going to be any dispensary, I'll tell you right now, it'll probably be Curaleaf. Just because they are like this MSO that has, like, it was a good point they brought up last night, like literally Curaleaf can do anything because it doesn't have a brand. It is the brand. Like me, I stick to education, topicals. I'm not trying to do, well, it's not true. I do a lot of different stuff, but I'm not bringing all of these things to the table that you don't know me for. You know Curaleaf to be cannabis, so they can do anything in cannabis. It doesn't matter. But if you know that somebody is good, who is it we were talking to? Grass. If you know somebody's good in concentrates, you're going to know, okay, I'm going to go here for concentrates. You like The Botanist? I haven't been there yet. I'll be honest with you. I haven't been to a dispensary in a minute. Oops. Did I incriminate myself? Oh well. But so wait, if Carl doesn't come back on in the next couple of minutes, it's okay, because it's just, I just wanted to reiterate, it's going to be how much cannabis can you have? People can have up to 6 ounces. That's definitely a blessing. I don't know why you would definitely need to be just rolling around with 6 ounces. I mean, I have some ideas, but none of them legal. So consumption lounge will be allowed. Oh, my favorite thing is, like, Carl touched on this point, like the smell would be something that they can't, arrest you for or whatever. And so what was it? The PBA wrote that, oh, here, I'll let you back in. The PBA wrote that it was against their constitutional right. I'm just telling everybody about how the PBA said that is against the constitutional right, that they can't
use a smell of cannabis. And I just saw. I also just saw that there were some lawmakers, because one of my biggest gripes, at least with the cleanup bill, was that I don't think any of the amendments to the cleanup bill were like made public until like after it was already signed, and a lot of even the lawmakers didn't get a chance to read it. But I know that there are some Republicans from the Senate or the Assembly that are upset because even for like minor use, the kid's parents, the minor's parents, aren't notified until the second time the kid is caught with it. So I know there are some things that the cleanup bill is going to be very difficult for law enforcement to kind of enforce. So I think what the biggest things to just keep in mind for everybody, you don't want to be just walking around, you know, consuming it out in the public. You want to make sure that you're still kind of, you know, not discreet about your consumption anymore, but you don't want to just, you know, parading it around with a lit joint or a lit pipe, you know, while you're walking down the street. But it is important to know that the smell is good.
That's like, that's to me is like, thank you. And it's like you know what, if anything, if you got pulled over by a quality state patrol, like a trooper, right? They already know that that's really, it has already been like, it's basically a waste of their time because New Jersey has a medical program. So really, all that would be offering them is the chance to, you know, for you, it's always better for you to offer up your medical card, but they can ask you, like, are you a medical marijuana patient? And you give them your card, they check you up in the system, and you're good to go. So if it's the local ordinances, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
the
there'd be ordinances.
that they're the ones that are a little bit more confused on the matter. Like I'm in Woodbridge, and so Woodbridge has Garden State Dispensary. For the most part, I would say a majority of the cops do already kind of understand, like, okay, there's a dispensary here. But that doesn't necessarily mean like you work there, whatever. Like I know when I worked at Breakwater in Cranberry, like we would go when I would be trimming, and we would go and I'd be on the break and go to like the Quick Check or the Wawa, and I would reek like we're with plants all day. So I would reek as if like I was a plant, and it just was like, oh, whatever. Like people got used to it. They knew. But when I would go to, like, I went to the store after work one day, you know, outside of town, and a mother pulled her child away from me. Cause like I know I smell like, I was like, oh my God, like I smell like a party. Like it's like it's insane. So you have to know that not everybody you know, everybody, including the police officers, will know that that smell isn't grounds for, you know,
Search,
like
yeah.
a. Mhm. So, um, wow, I'm sorry, I had smoking that joint. Let me switch it up.
Oh man.
Ugh, I like options, but I really think that I hope that we see people actually taking the time to establish like equity programs in this. So if you are a person who wanted to get into cannabis and you're a person of color, a veteran, a woman, then like you're a commodity right now. So
Yeah, the bill has what I love about the bill, that a lot of people that we are close to kind of fought for, is there are the opportunity for micro licenses. So the bill that creates the industry, you're going to have, you know, class one cultivation license, class two manufacturer's license, class three processor. You're going to have a wholesaler distributor, a wholesale license. You're going to have a dispensary license and delivery service license. There are a cap on the full scale cultivation licenses for the first 2 years. They cannot exceed 37 cultivation licenses. But what's really awesome for those people that really want to get into cultivation is there's no caps on the micro licenses for cultivation, and that's a really big piece that I want people who are, you know, definitely want to get into the industry, and have equity, to realize that, you know, you do have an opportunity with those micro licenses, and the licenses are being set so that 30% of the licenses are awarded to, you know, people who fall into the categories, like you said, of minorities, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses. So they will get an opportunity to, you know, get a piece of those licenses and be able to earn equity in the industry. So I think it's really important. And, you know, you and me have always said it from day one. Those, you know, those people in those communities need to team up and realize that they have way more value in this industry, and not to get taken advantage of, because a lot of large operations that kind of move from state to state, those multi-state operators love to kind of swoop in and find those small companies and kind of use them as frontmen. And that's a real unfortunate aspect of this industry that everyone knows about. And, you know, it's not spoken about as much in the public as it should be, but everyone that's in the industry knows that it happens. But realize that the way that the bill is written, like, no, make sure you own your equity in your license and go get yourself a micro license. A micro license has the opportunity to then scale up to a non-capped license. Micro licenses can't be over, you know, 200. It can't have a storefront or an operation space that's more than 2,500 square feet, no more than 10 employees. And if it's a retailer, you can't dispense more than, I believe, 2,000 pounds per month, which, for a micro license, I still think you can have a really good business with 2,000 pounds per month. But you do have an opportunity, if your micro license is performing well, to scale. So you can then reapply to the state to get, and it's not a full license, you know, application process, which we know is a really drawn out one. Once you're a micro license, you can apply to the state, show them that, you know, you have the ability to scale, and they would have the opportunity to grant you a non-capped full-scale license. So it's a great way, and I know, you know, even myself, it's a great way to, I love the opportunity to get in small and then grow, because I want to make sure if I can own it all, I can own it all. I don't have to, you know, sell most of my company away to somebody to try to get one of those big full-scale licenses. Licensing is that application process is a very competitive game in any state, and in New Jersey, it's not only competitive, it's political. So you need a lot of lobbying if you want one of those big guy licenses, and you have these companies that come in with $100 million, and it's like, dude, how do I compete with that? But I will give the state credit for trying to you know, piece aside some of those licenses for those businesses. So people that want to get in, this is where you pay attention to what I was saying before. Is where you pay attention to what the CRC, or the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, is going to do with those licenses and those micro licenses. And there's also what's called the conditional license. Conditional license gives you the opportunity to, say, apply for a full-scale license, but you don't have the $100 million. You don't have that big amount of capital up. You or might not. Again, it's all going to depend on how the CRC frames the conditional license, but it'll be something along the lines of, you won't have to meet all of the check boxes for the full-scale license application, but it'll give you the opportunity to get awarded the license, so that you can then go maybe tell your investor, like, hey, I got the license now. Now will you actually invest the cash in it? And a lot of the times in this industry, it's no one wants to give you money until you have the license, but you can't get the license until you have the money. It's once you have the license, everyone wants a piece of your car. Everyone wants to invest in you. Everyone wants to give you money once you have a license. But it's like, how do I get that license without the money? It's a $20,000 application. It's like, how do I get that? How do I get that? So there are those opportunities, again, for people, for smaller businesses, to use those opportunities or loopholes, I'll call them, in the bill to or in the language to get yourself some equity in this company and this industry, and know that you can, because this is an industry was legalized on the basis of social justice and social equity, and you know, making, stop getting, you know, minorities and people of color, you know, Black and Latina, Latinx people specifically, arrested for minor cannabis use. That's what, you know, our governor ran on. That's what all of our lawmakers said was going to be, you know, was the reason that we were putting this forward. It wasn't the money. So if that is the case, then we need to make sure that we're getting, you know, some of these licenses, conditional licenses, micro licenses, and then taking those micro licenses. I want to make sure that people who get those licenses do scale them and really get back up to those full licenses, uncapped, and compete with those big guys. And the only way that they're going to be able to do that is if they have the support to do it. So the CRC, and the way that the bill was written, the CRC is to create an office of business development for businesses that are owned by minorities, women-owned, and veteran businesses. Now, unfortunately, the language in the bill doesn't direct funds to that office directly. It'll be up to the Cannabis Regulatory Commission to, create a budget of their own that will, set aside or fund that department, hopefully. But that office for support, I think, is going to be critical. So again, that's important for people who want to get into this industry, want to get this license, pay attention to who gets seated on the CRC. They have some pretty good people on there. I think the direction of the CRC will hopefully go in the right direction of where we need it to, so that this industry actually makes change in the communities it's supposed to affect. But like I said, pay attention to who's getting seated on that CRC, because they're the ones who are most likely going to hire the staff for that office, to oversee businesses that are minority owned. And we want to make sure the people that are running that office are, have the same goals that the people that are owning those businesses have, and the goals of social equity, and making sure those businesses not only get a license, but get support for their business, like funding and mentorships and things like that, because that it's going to be really important. But there is some language. They're trying. New Jersey's trying. They just don't know how to actually put some meat behind, some of the things that they say they want to do. But at least that office will be there, and hopefully it is, staffed with really, strong candidates who really will help see that those businesses get the support that they need. Nice. But yeah, like definitely, there's opportunities. There's no. I don't think anyone doesn't think there's opportunities in this industry, meaning like it's going to be successful. It's just who is successful in the industry that's of importance to me, and I know a lot of people in the community. So we need to still make sure we got our eyes on how they're putting the industry and the framework together, because it's going to affect,
Well, ultimately, we're the ones that get to decide that. We're the ones that have to do that. And I just want to reiterate this because we're almost done. We're almost at time. But to reiterate the fact that now that cannabis is legal, you need to start thinking outside of the box. It's more than just plant touching businesses, because this is going to create all other, like, people are going to need other things. So maybe you open a smoke shop. I interviewed this past Monday on Mondays with Mary Jade. I interviewed Bouquet Rolling Papers. They started a rolling paper company, and now they actually have a partnership, a social equity partnership with Curaleaf. They couldn't talk too much about it, but that's amazing. A Black-owned business is going to be all across the country, just because they had an idea for a rolling paper company. So start thinking of other things. If you're thinking of this cannabis legalization more from the business aspect versus the consumer aspect, start thinking outside of the box. Start thinking of things that you also use, and maybe start putting your ideas out there. Just be careful of any
culture vultures.
Yeah, like I was gonna be petty, but I won't.
No, that's actually really important. If you're looking at the industry from a business side, like the opportunities are a billion of them. I would love for people to pay super attention to tech and technology and stuff like that for cannabis businesses. I think it's important for us to make sure that we are, paying attention to like trends in the industry, and I think lab testing and technology for acute testing in the labs is important for people. So there's tons of businesses opportunities, and I think there needs to be more focus on like on that aspect of like how the labs and the manufacturers, like how are they running their businesses, and what niche fixes can we fix them, because that ultimately affects the consumer. And if you're looking at the industry from the consumer side, consumers need to make sure that they stay vocal. Like, yeah, we got it, and it's like legal to have it here in New Jersey, but I want consumers to also pay attention to like, hey, what are you guys requiring these companies and these, like, that industry that's making all the money off of it? Well, you guys making sure that they're there's no pesticides in these products and things like that. Consumers have a big say to their lawmakers and stuff like that. Like, hey, I'm getting, you know, um, product from these cannabis companies, and I don't think it's really like consumer safe. Like, you guys needs to make sure there's regulatory and compliance framework, and that, from the consumer side, like, you guys make sure your voices are always heard, and you guys are telling these companies, like, I want these type of products, because at the end of the day, this is a consumer industry, and consumers have all to say. Wherever you guys are going to get your stuff and whatever you guys want is what will is what the companies will ultimately provide for us. So consumers are really important in this industry, because we're the ones that got it legal.
That's right. Well, thank you, Carl, for joining me, and Feliz again. Feliz, Feliz.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out to me. Sorry, a little off my game this morning. I had to run and get a large coffee, but
We appreciate your dairy curl.
that's what I got to be careful. I can't get up from the seat. My soul glow stain might be on my chair, so I got to be careful. I can't get up yet while the camera's still running.
Thank you. Oh, that was wonderful. I'm so glad that I got to make that joke and that you joined me today. I will talk to you soon. And if anybody has questions or they want to, ask Carl something about CBD or something in person, you could go to Garden State Hemp. You could follow Garden State Hemp NJ on Instagram and visit their website and support a Black-owned business. All right, everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Jade.
Bye.
Peace, much love.